a map of the Roman Empire, more or less during Jesus' time, during biblical times. And you can see how vast it was. And you can see Jerusalem right here. And when you saw, if we were at the lecture with Ron, I guess Jerusalem, Israel, was very fluid in terms of it went up to Syria, Lebanon, down to almost Egypt. So yeah, this is the entire extent of the Roman Empire, so it's quite huge. And we're just focusing on this small area right here. But we're going to see how Rome impacted thinkings over here and the New Testament going forward. So right here, when you read, the art of imperial Rome assumed an important role in state propaganda. So you'll see dozens of portraits of the emperor going on. And I want you to see what it meant to be divine. So if you look at your handouts, we're going to cover three themes today for this exhibit. It's divinity, suffering and healing, death and the afterlife. What did the Romans consider to be divine? What is divine divinity for them? Suffering and healing. How did the Roman beliefs influence their thought about suffering and death? And what did it have in common with biblical beliefs about suffering and alleviating from suffering? And the death and the afterlife. What did the Romans believe about death? What did they believe about the afterlife? And how does this compare and contrast with the New Testament beliefs and thoughts? So basically, think about the divine. In today's secular world, we think about God up here and then us down here, and there's a huge rift between divinity and the world. But back then, here in the Roman times, there was no such distinction. Everything was, the supernatural and the common world were intertwined together. So if you said, like, I met a god yesterday, people wouldn't freak out and think you were crazy. You know, that was a common thing for them to think about. So if you heard about someone saying that I came from my father was Mars or Jupiter, and my mother was immortal, they would kind of believe in you, more or less. It was a common thing for them to say. So as we go along, we're going to look at different artifacts going along. And of course, we have to talk about Julius Caesar. He is one of the main persons that you can't talk without talking about the Roman Empire. Julius Caesar held himself, basically, considered himself as a descendant of Venus. So he himself proclaimed divine heritage to gain, I guess, political ground towards his opponents and people. And also Romulus, who was the legendary founder of Rome, he also said he was a god born of a god himself. And he was the descendant. His father was Mars, the god of war during this time. And then it was Mark Antony later on with Julius Caesar that the Senate voted him into that he was divine. So there was actually a vote going on for people saying whether or not you were divine or not going forward. So we're going to go this way.